The bell above the door jingled as 3 men in leather jackets swaggered into Rosie's diner. Boots scraped tile, and their laughter rolled across the room like broken glass. At a corner booth, Maya Torres lifted her coffee mug, pretending not to notice. She wore faded jeans, a loose flannel, and the quiet tiredness of someone used to being overlooked. To anyone watching, she was just another waitress off shift, sipping caffeine after a long night. But Maya's eyes told another story, eyes that had scanned deserts through rifle scopes, eyes that had seen friends fall and still stood tall. The men didn't see that. "Hey, sweetheart," one of them barked, slapping the counter hard enough to rattle the spoons. "Why don't you come pour us some real service?" His name tag, stitched crooked onto his vest, read Jax. The other patrons shrank into silence. A mother pulled her child closer. The cook behind the counter lowered his gaze to the sizzling grill. Maya set her mug down slowly. Her fingers tightened around the handle until her knuckles blanched. "Not interested," she said softly, her voice steady. The men laughed, ugly and loud. "You hear that, boys? She thinks she's too good for us," Jack sneered. He stepped closer, his breath thick with beer, his shadow swallowing her booth. "Out here, we don't ask twice." The diner went quiet. Forks stopped midair. Everyone waited for Maya's reaction. She didn't flinch. Her calm unsettled him. "Last chance, girl," Jax growled. "Stand up, or I'll make you." Maya looked up, her voice dropping to a whisper only he could hear. "You really don't want to do that." The room froze. Jax's hand twitched. His fingers were inches from Maya's collar when she whispered, "You really don't want to do that." He grinned anyway and lunged. Maya's right hand flashed up, not fast so much as precise, 2 fingers and a thumb cutting through air, trapping the edge of his palm. She rotated her wrist, dropped her weight, and turned his reach into a fold. Jax's elbow buckled, his shoulders tilted, and the next sound was a strained grunt squeezed out of his lungs as his knees hit tile. The room exhaled in a collective gasp. A coffee spoon tinked to the floor somewhere behind her. Maya didn't look away from Jax. "Let go," he snarled, but his voice had a tremor now. "You'll stand up when you can promise you'll use your words like a grown man," she said, calm, not breathless. She kept her voice low, steady, deliberate, like she was talking someone through a panic attack instead of holding their hand inches from snapping. He yanked. "Bad choice." She redirected and set his knuckles flat to tile with a short, surgical press. No crack, just a warning that crack was available. "Say it," she murmured. "Fine, fine." He said the word like it had splinters, but he said it. Behind him, one of the other men shifted his boots. The name on his vest read Boone. The third, Kane, stood near the pie display, eyes narrowed, and touched a pocket like he was checking for something stupid. "Don't," Maya said without turning. "We can all go back to pie." Kane smirked. "Lady, you think you're scary, 'cause you did a parlor trick on Jax?" The cook, Walt, finally spoke from behind the grill. "Fellas, why don't we?" "Shut it," Boone snapped, then took a step. A single step, heavy, hard, intentional. The mother with the little girl pulled her kid under the table. The server at the register froze, one hand hovering over the phone. Maya eased pressure and let Jax's hand go. He staggered up, humiliated heat rising in his cheeks. His eyes found hers with a kind of feral calculation. Pride mixing with liquor is a cruel chemist. "You're gonna pay for that," he hissed. Maya stood, flannel loose at her wrists, palms open. She kept the table between them now, not as a shield but as a line. "I don't want to hurt you," she said, and it wasn't bravado. It sounded like regret. Boone rolled his neck. "You already did." Maya's gaze flicked, 1 second, to the reflection in the diner's stainless milkshake machine. Kane's hand was now in his jacket. The angle of his elbow telegraphed trouble. The mother's eyes, wide and bright, begged silently. Maya breathed in once. The breath wasn't for strength. It was for memory. Desert heat bending the horizon. A medic named Lena laughing too loud in a tent because they were all pretending to be indestructible. A convoy where the radio went dead and the quiet sounded like a trap. Lena's hands, steady on a shoulder torn by shrapnel, whispering, Easy. In through the nose, out through the mouth. No panic. Panic steals your thinking. Now, in a small-town diner under fluorescent buzz, Maya could almost hear Lena's voice. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. Kane pulled. Maya moved first. She slid the sugar caddy across the counter with a flick so it spun out and whipped against his wrist. Whatever he was grabbing clattered back into his pocket. She covered the distance on a diagonal, using the booth edge like a fulcrum, and checked Boone's shoulder with her left forearm just enough to put him off balance. Her right hand found Kane's jacket collar and steered him into the pie case. Glass rattled, peach slices shivered in syrup, but didn't fall. Outside, Boone roared, surging again. Maya shifted her stance, feet parallel, knees soft, weight centered, and there was something in that shift that told the room. She was trained to be the calm in catastrophe. Boone grabbed, she entered, peeled the grip, and sent him to a knee with a clean spiral that looked like it belonged in a textbook. He wasn't small. He just didn't matter to leverage. Jax came in swinging wild. She ducked, the punch sailing over her shoulder, and she pressed her open palm heel into his sternum, not hard, just precise. He stumbled backward into a stack of plastic menus that fanned into the air and skittered across tile. The little girl under the table giggled once, a hiccup of surprise, then hid her face in her mother's sweater. Enough, Maya said louder now. Not a shout, just the voice you use when a dog starts running toward a road. Look around. Phones were out. The teenage busboy had his camera over the heat lamp. A taxi driver who'd been waiting for a takeout order filmed from the doorway, his mouth open, delighted and terrified. The cook's hand hovered near the wall phone. This isn't going your way, Maya said. Walk. Kane wiped spit from his lip and smiled, slow. You're some kind of cop? No. What then? She considered the answer, and the memory pressed in again. The crack of a door in Mazar-e Sharif, the way sand tasted like metal when it blew in through the seams. The last night before she came home, when she and Lena sat on a blasted step and counted the glow of stars like coins in some rich sky until the generator coughed back to life and the world refilled with noise. Maya kept her eyes on theirs. Former Army, she said. 11B, and I'm really trying not to make this the worst story you tell your grandkids. Jax laughed, too loud, too forced. You think anyone's filming gonna scare us? Boone's gaze flicked to the screens pointed their way, and some old animal instinct did the math on reputation. Still, pride is a stubborn accountant. Out, Maya repeated. Or what? Kane said. Maya's answer wasn't words. She stepped in, captured his jacket seam, and pinned him to the counter with a press that made his knees forget how to be knees. Then she looked at Jax. He looked back and did not miss the point. Let's go, Boone muttered, rubbing his shoulder, anger fizzing down to something like sense. Jax's mouth worked, forming a fresh insult, but the shape of the room had changed. Phones, witnesses, the mother's stare like a verdict. He jerked his arm free and spat on the tile. You'll drown in this, he said to Maya in a voice so low only she could hear. You don't know who runs this town. I know how to read a map, she said, releasing Kane. And I'm not lost. They backed toward the door, dignity shredded, muttering promises that sounded like threats. The bell jingled, the glass swung, and cold day rushed in. For 3 seconds, the diner held a fragile silence, like after thunder when you count the distance to lightning. Then everyone talked at once. Oh my God, did you see? Are you okay? Ma'am, you were amazing. Walt leaned over the pass and looked at her as if she were a puzzle piece that finally explained the picture. You sure you're all right? He asked. Maya rolled her wrists once, gently, checking her own joints. I'm okay. She glanced at the mother under the table. You. The woman nodded, tears she hadn't allowed now suddenly permitted. Thank you. The little girl peeped out, eyes round. You're like a superhero, she said. Maya knelt so they were level. Heroes are teachers and nurses and folks who hold doors, she said softly. I just learned some techniques I hope you never need. The bell chirped again. A man in a sheriff's deputy uniform stepped in, hand on his belt, shoulders squared. He took in the faces, the phones, the scattered menus, the bruised pride hovering in the air like smoke. What happened? He asked. Walt opened his mouth, but the taxi driver beat him to it, phone high. Them Rain crew tried to mess with her. She handled it. I got the whole. The deputy shot him a look that said not now. His eyes settled on Maya. Ma'am? They came at me. I defended myself. No one's hurt who didn't request it. A twitch at the deputy's jaw. You laying charges? Maya shook her head. I'm asking for peace. He studied her another second, then the room, then finally the door. Peace is thin around here, he muttered, almost to himself. He nodded once and stepped back out to the sidewalk, radio murmuring. Through the blinds, Maya saw him scan the street like he was counting storms. Walt exhaled. Coffee's on the house, he announced, voice shaky with relief. Please don't, Maya said. I still pay my tab. Walt smiled anyway. Then at least take a slice of peach for the road. You got it, she said, and found herself smiling back, a small, tired smile that felt like it belonged to someone who had just kept a promise to herself. As Walt slid pie onto a plate, the teenage busboy sidled up. So, you were, like, Army for real? For real, Maya said. Can you show me that move where you, like, made his whole arm forget physics? Maya's laugh was quick and bright. That's just leverage. And paying attention. She tapped the side of her head. This does most of it. Walt's radio behind the counter crackled, the same frequency as the deputy's. Static, then a voice, thin and worried. Unit 2, we got movement at Rosie's. Multiple bikes. Repeat, multiple. The room stiffened. Conversations tripped and fell quiet. Through the blinds, a shadow lengthened across the sunny rectangle on the floor. The bell didn't ring, no one came in, but engines rumbled low outside, a mechanical purr that crept under the door and slid into the diner's bones. Walt looked at Maya. Friends of theirs? Not mine, she said. Phones rose again like periscopes. The mother pulled the little girl close and whispered, "It's okay," and made a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. The deputy's voice came through faintly from the sidewalk. "This isn't the time, Rook. Stand down." A new voice answered, closer, heavier, amused. "Heard you had our boys tripped up by a waitress. We're here for manners lessons." Maya stood, set the fork down beside the untouched pie, and rolled her shoulders once. That old quiet slipped back over her like a well-worn jacket. She scanned exits, counted faces, and placed herself not as center stage but as line of defense, between the door and the mother, between the bravado and the people who didn't want to be brave today. The bell finally jingled. The door swung open slow, like someone wanted to savor the entrance. 4 riders filled the threshold, vests patched with the same sigil as Jax's crew, but their leader wore a white stripe under his name, Rook. He had a smile that didn't reach his eyes and a long scar that did. He stepped in, tipped 2 fingers to the deputy standing stiff and tense. "Afternoon, lawmen. Afternoon, citizens." His gaze landed on Maya and stayed there. "You must be our teacher." Maya didn't answer. She didn't have to. The room answered for her. The way people leaned toward her without meaning to, the way the phones pointed like compasses finding north. Rook chuckled, soft. "We can settle this easy," he said, almost kindly. "Apologize to my boys. Walk out. Leave town. No one has to bleed." Maya thought of Lena counting stars and of promises made in places where promises were currency. "I won't start fights. I won't run from them either. I'll keep strangers safe like I wish someone had kept us. Or," Rook added, and his smile sharpened, "we can make a memory." The deputy's hand hovered near his radio. Walt's knuckles whitened on the counter's edge. The little girl's eyes peeked out, trusting. Maya took 1 step forward, just one, and said, clear enough to carry to the sidewalk, "Respect isn't something you collect like dues. It's something you give." Rook's smile vanished. He lifted his chin. The riders behind him shifted, boots, leather, quiet menace. Outside, more engines idled, a low thunder gathering. "Class is in session then," he said. Maya slid her foot half an inch, set her stance, and let her gaze go soft so the whole room fit inside it. Doors, hands, angles, opportunities. She didn't feel big. She felt ready. The bell rang again. And a new figure stepped in behind Rook. Someone Maya recognized, someone she never expected to see again, someone whose arrival could turn this from a fight into a wildfire. A new figure stepped in behind Rook. Someone Maya recognized, someone she never expected to see again. Cole. The name left her before she could stop it. The scar on his jaw had deepened since Afghanistan, a pale hook in tan skin. Cole Mercer, the contractor who'd swaggered through checkpoints like the rules bent for his boots, who'd called their medic Doc, like a nickname could make up for the times he vanished when things got loud. The last time she'd seen him he was walking away from a blown cordon with his headset off, hands clean, while Lena bled into her sleeve and whispered, you're okay, to someone who wasn't. He took off his aviators slowly, like the room had to earn the reveal. His eyes landed on the counter, on the phones, on the little girl half hidden behind her mother's jacket, before settling on Maya. The corner of his mouth lifted. Didn't figure the first face I'd see in this one-stoplight kingdom would be yours. Rook cocked his head, amused. You two know each other? War story, Cole said, like he was telling a bartender he preferred rye. Maya felt the floor tilt for a heartbeat. The diner's hum sharpened, the neon buzz, the breath of the strangers behind her, the deputy's radio chewing static. She straightened until her spine remembered parade rest. You're working for them now. Cole shrugged. I work for whoever pays on time. These boys are punctual. You always did have a problem with pragmatists. Rook's smile thinned. We didn't invite you to reminisce. We invited you to apologize. He said the last word like it was a clean thing he'd never had to use. Maya shifted a half step to keep herself between the door and the mother. If you want to fight, she said, eyes on Rook, you're going to get a mess. People get hurt who didn't volunteer. Rook chuckled. That why you're standing there? To volunteer for them? That's why I'm standing here, she agreed. Cole leaned his shoulder against the doorframe, a practiced picture of casual. But Maya saw the other things, the weight distribution that meant he could push off in half a second, the turkey tail print under his jacket that suggested a compact weapon, the faint tick by his left eye that had always shown up when someone said, friendly fire, like a joke. You're outnumbered, Torres, he said softly. You always like to count people like equipment, she replied, just as soft. You ever count your spine? He almost smiled, almost. Then he glanced at Rook. She's good. I've seen it. Rook didn't look impressed. I also heard she's a waitress. People get rusty. The deputy cleared his throat. Rook, I'm telling you, take your boys and leave while you can still call it a choice. Lawman, Rook drawled, I've been calling things choices since I was 12. Don't need your dictionary. The engines outside purred louder, like the street itself was breathing. In the diner, people shifted, their fear turning into something almost electric. Walt set the coffee pot down so gently it didn't clink. The busboy's hands shook around his phone. Maya lowered her voice to the deputy without taking her eyes off the door. You got backup coming? Sheriff says to hold. He murmured tight. County's 20 minutes out if they roll. Maybe more. Too long. She saw it, he knew it. Then we do this clean, Maya said, louder now for the room. Outside. Rook's eyebrows rose. You think I won't fight you in front of your audience? I think you'll set this place on fire if we fight in here, she said, and nodded toward the coffee burners, the grease traps, the plates, the people. Go outside and I go alone. The mother's hand found the little girl's and squeezed hard enough to speak. Cole watched Maya's face the way a man watches a map. A duel? He asked. You've grown sentimental. It's called containment, she said. Rook tapped two knuckles against the door, considering. Why should I give you anything you want? Because if this goes sideways inside, Maya said, every camera here will show you swinging into a room of civilians. Outside you get spectacle. Inside you get prison. Rook breathed out through his nose. He didn't fear prison like men who respected consequence. But he did understand optics. He tipped his chin. Outside then. The room shifted around the decision. A collective inhale. The deputy's jaw tightened. Walt moved without being asked, herding people toward the back corner, away from windows. The taxi driver killed his flash. The busboy swallowed hard and whispered, "You got this," like it was a spell he could cast. Maya turned to the mother. "Stay low. Don't run unless I tell you to." To Walt, "Kill the burners. Lock the back once we're out." To the deputy, "If it escalates, you get them out the kitchen door." To the room, a glance, steady as a weight. "Filming is fine. But don't be brave in the wrong direction." Rook's men spread just enough to make a ring on the sidewalk, boots a rough circle, chrome flashing under the afternoon sun, leather creaking like wings. Engines idled in a semicircle on the street. Curious faces peered from shop windows across the road. News spreads with noise. The town was listening. Maya stepped onto the stoop and felt the light press against her like a hand on a shoulder. The air smelled like motor oil and peach sugar cooling on a sill. Cole came last, closing the door behind him and casually, almost invisibly, flipping the bolt so it couldn't open quick from the inside. Rook noticed. He approved. "Rules?" he asked, a parody of fairness. "No weapons," Maya said. "We're not that kind of club," Rook lied, and 3 men smiled with chrome teeth. Cole stood at 2 o'clock in the circle, just inside her peripheral. He hadn't drawn anything. He hadn't needed to, for now. Maya rolled her wrists, feeling the knit of tendons and the memory of pain that had long since been folded into discipline. She thought of Lena again, not the bleeding, not the scream over static, but the way she'd once walked backward through a doorway, eyes up, telling a terrified boy with a wedding band on a chain, "We're leaving, you and me, 1 step, 2 good, breathe good." Not heroics. Procedure. Rook stepped forward like a man who believed the world would move if he pushed hard enough. He was bigger than Jack's, more compact, his power coiled instead of slung. He raised his hands not because he knew how but because violence had always worked. "Last chance to say sorry," he said. "I'm not sorry for defending anybody," she said. "You could try that. It changes you." He came fast. She didn't backpedal. She entered, cut the angle to blunt his momentum, let his forearm slide past her torso, caught the tricep and tucked it to his own ribs while guiding his wrist toward his belly. His punch became a self-hook. His balance broke like a chair with 1 leg missing. She clipped a knee into his thigh, not hard, just decisive, and let him taste sidewalk dust, then stepped clear before his friends could turn a duel into a pylon. A murmur crossed the circle. Cameras rose higher. The deputy hovered, torn between policy and physics. Rook scrambled up, pride bright red in his face. He feinted high. She didn't buy it. He tried low. She pivoted, let his weight drag him past, and reminded his shoulder that leverage isn't sentiment. He grunted, grabbed for her shirt. She spun out and slapped his knuckles with the flattened edge of her hand, the sting humbling. "Fight back," he snarled. "Stop dancing." "This is me fighting back," she said. "You should be grateful." He lunged, and she let something like anger slip its leash. Not rage, not the wildfire that burns your edges off, but the kind that powers a clean cut. A palm heel to his sternum, calibrated this time to rattle his cage, a forearm to his bicep to collapse a swing, a swept ankle, and he was on the cement again, breath scraping, dignity leaking. A ripple of approval tremored through the watching crowd. Across the street, a high school kid who'd pretended to be bored at everything for 2 years whispered, "Holy," and forgot to finish. Cole shifted, and Maya's attention slid to him like a scope finding a gleam. He looked back, and for a bare half-second they were back in that ruined hallway, dust drifting like snow in the beam of a dying flashlight, arguing in whispers about the right door, the right risk, the price of waiting. "Call him off," she said. Cole's jaw worked. "He doesn't take my calls." "That's your fault," she said. Rook was up again, shoulders heaving. Blood touched his lip and did not look bad on him. Men like him made red a costume. "Enough," he said to his circle without looking. "If she puts me down again, you take her." So that was the rule. Good to know. He charged, and she met him even closer, where his power had no room to bloom. Her elbow found his solar plexus. The breath left him in a surprised hoof, and she torqued him over her hip. His back hit the ground. The cheer that went up was not big, but it was public. 3 boots shifted in. The deputy's hand went to his radio. "Don't," Maya snapped, the word sharp as glass, and everyone paused, even the engines seemed to hitch. Rook lay blinking at the sky. Cole took one step toward him, not helping, just measuring the length between his own history and now. He looked at Maya. "You always did do the unexpected." "No," she said. "I always did the work." "Boys," Rook croaked, and the circle tightened like a noose. Maya saw it coming. The violation of the supposed duel, the turn into pack behavior. She marked targets, distances, angles. She would move first, faster than dignity and control would like, and it would become what she tried to avoid, mess. Then a voice cut through the air, cool as shade. "That's enough." The sheriff had arrived, broad hat, mirrored shades, a badge that caught sunlight and tossed it around like a dare. 2 cruisers idled behind him. Relief rustled through the crowd, then trailed off as people saw who stepped out of the passenger side. Maya's breath halted for a count. "Lena," she said, but the face that turned toward her was older, hair shorter, the smile a little lopsided from an old scar. Not Lena. Lena's sister, Marin, a nurse who'd been stateside when the call came, who'd sent a letter Maya hadn't answered because there weren't right words for "I'm sorry your sister died on a floor I couldn't clean fast enough." Marin's eyes widened as recognition clicked in place. "Maya Torres," she said, like the town had just coughed up a ghost. "I've been looking for you." Rook laughed. "What? Perfect. Reunion. Can we bleed now or later?" The sheriff lifted a hand. "No one bleeds." "Not today," he said, and there was iron in it. Cole's gaze flicked to the sheriff, then to Marin, and something calculating slid into place. He leaned toward Rook. "New plan," he murmured, not quiet enough. "Pressure the law. Use the nurse. Public relations." Maya caught every word. Anger beat once in her throat, then flattened into aim. She stepped to stand between Marin and the circle, the line she kept drawing with her body moving with her like a shadow. "You're the reason she wrote me," Marin said quietly to Maya, eyes brighter than made sense for a woman dosing adrenaline into her own courage. "She said your name in the letter. The one who still counts stars." Maya felt like the world shifted an inch to the left and snapped back. She swallowed. "I didn't answer," she said, as apology and confession. "Answer now," Marin said, mouth tilting, a sad smile made of grit. "By staying alive." The sheriff's radio squawked. County was 10 minutes out now, maybe, but Rook didn't care for clocks he didn't set. He nodded at his men. "Take her." The first rider moved. The second. The deputy drew breath to shout, and Cole moved first, not toward Maya but toward the mother pressed against the diner window, the little girl's fingers white at the edge of the glass. He didn't touch them. He didn't have to. He just stepped into their line of escape, blocking the kitchen alley, turning the geometry of the street into a trap. Maya's stomach dropped. That was the move she'd feared from the start. Not a punch, not a swing, but the use of innocence as leverage. "Cole," she warned, voice low and lethal. "Don't." He looked at her with something like apology wearing a mask of practicality. "You made this a public thing," he said. "Public things have collateral." Marin's hand found Maya's elbow, not to pull, just to anchor. "What do we do?" she whispered. "We finish this before it becomes a story people tell at funerals," Maya said. Then louder to the circle, "Leave them out of it. I'm right here." Rook gestured, impatient. 2 riders peeled toward Maya. She stepped into them. No speeches now, no lessons, just work. A parry, a wrist fold, a shove that sent one stumbling into a cruiser's push bumper. A shoulder check and a drop step that turned the second's momentum into asphalt. She stayed away from the mother's line, pulling the fight toward the gutter, toward the open, anything to keep distance between danger and the glass. The crowd's noise rose like surf. The sheriff barked commands that broke on leather and pride. Marin moved with sudden, scary competence, guiding the mother and kid behind the patrol car's door, lowering their center of gravity, telling them when to breathe. Walt, God bless stubborn men, had come out with a fire extinguisher because some people fight with whatever they have. Maya found Rook again, and in his face she saw embarrassment curdling into malice. He feinted at her left, dipped right, and his hand flashed, steel glint, a blade small enough to hide, big enough to matter. "No knives," she snapped. He smiled. "We're not that kind of club," he mocked and came in low. She pivoted, caught his wrist, slammed it into the hood of a cruiser. The knife pinged off and slid under the tire. He headbutt. She checked with her forearm and felt starbursts behind her eyes, then recentered with a breath that tasted like dust and diesel. He grabbed. She spun. The edge of his vest tore a thread from her flannel that hung like a loose thought. "Torres!" Cole shouted, too loud, too urgent, and she didn't turn, but she recognized the tone. She ducked reflexively and a fist she hadn't seen whistled past her ear. She countered without looking, elbowed ribs, stamped instep, cleared space. The ocean of noise around them went thin, tinny, like someone had put a lid over the street. Marin screamed, a single syllable that sliced everything else. Maya wheeled. The little girl wasn't behind the patrol door anymore. For a split second, Maya couldn't find her. Then she saw small shape slipping toward the diner's side alley after a dropped stuffed rabbit that had rolled, innocent and stupid, toward the idling bikes. "Stop!" Maya barked, louder than she'd been all day, aimed not at the child but at the engines, at fate. Too late. A rider kicked his stand and the bike lurched a foot, a stupid, thoughtless spoonster into a simmering pot. Maya moved, sprinted, every calculation dissolving into pure priority. Rook grabbed for her shoulder, she ripped free. The deputy shouted, Marin bolted, the mother's voice became an animal sound. The rabbit knocked against a chrome pipe and fell flat. The girl reached for it, fingers stretching into danger. Maya slid, sneaker soles burning, hands out. And the world exploded with a sound like a sheet of tin torn from the sky. A gunshot. Then another. Silence tried to happen and failed. Maya froze, body between the girl and the street, ears ringing with the memory of long-ago firefights and the now of a small town losing its mind. She didn't feel pain. That meant nothing. She tasted metal again, as if the desert had sent her a postcard. She looked up. Smoke feathered from the diner's roofline where the first shot had punched a neat hole in the neon. The second had shattered a cruiser's side mirror. But neither had hit flesh. The shots hadn't come from the bikers. They'd come from the clock tower across the square, 3 windows up, a dark shape leaning out, something long and quiet pressed to a shoulder. Rook stared, genuinely surprised. Cole's jaw clenched. The sheriff swore. The shape moved. A third shot rang, and a gas line on one of the idling bikes hissed, then blue, coughing flame that licked along chrome like a tongue. "Who the hell?" Rook started. Maya's eyes tracked the shooter, then the flame, then the girl, then the mother, then the whole street as if her gaze could keep plates spinning by itself. The fire took a breath. "Everyone down!" Maya shouted. The flame ran under the line of bikes like a rumor, and in the echo of the gunshot and the sudden, savage bloom of heat, Maya saw 3 truths stack like cards. A sniper who might not be on anyone's side, a fire that could turn a standoff into a stampede, and Rook's men, startled enough to be dangerous. She grabbed the little girl up and turned to run her toward Marin, and slammed to a stop because Cole was suddenly there, blocking the alley with his body, eyes on hers, one hand open like a request, the other hidden. "Give me the kid," he said, voice low, urgent. Behind him, the fire found something it liked and flared. Maya tightened her hold, feet braced, lungs searching for a plan in air that tasted like fear. Cole took one step closer. "Trust me," he said. The sniper snapped the bolt. The flames snapped higher. Rook's shout splintered the circle. Maya had 1 second to decide if the man who'd walked away from a blood-wet hallway was about to save a child, or finish what his pragmatism always started. Cole's outstretched hand hovered like a bridge she didn't trust. Behind him, fire licked the chrome, flames dancing higher, swallowing gasoline fumes. The little girl clung to Maya's neck, fingers digging tight, too afraid to cry. "Give me the kid," Cole said again. His voice wasn't angry. It was pleading. Maya's body screamed at her to move, to get the child clear. But her memory screamed louder. Cole walking away from that blasted hallway in Afghanistan while Lena bled, while others carried the weight. Pragmatist. Survivor. Opportunist. Not happening, Maya snapped. She shifted her stance and tried to step past him. His hidden hand emerged, not with a weapon, but with a badge. A contractor's credential, laminated and official-looking, its edges frayed from years of pockets. He thrust it toward her like it was proof. I'm here under orders. Protective custody. Don't ask questions. Just, trust me this time. Rook's men shouted behind them. Engines revved, then sputtered as the fire consumed hoses and tanks. The sniper's bolt clicked again. People in the crowd screamed, ducking as another round shattered the pavement at Rook's boots. Cole's eyes locked on hers. Tess, I know I failed you once. But if you don't hand her to me, you won't outrun this fire with her in your arms. For half a breath, she saw the logic in his words. The smoke, the flames, the crowd pressed against glass inside the diner. The girl's breath against her neck was hot and uneven, a clock ticking down. But logic wasn't the same as trust. No, Maya said. Her voice cut sharper than any round fired from the tower. You don't get to carry her. You already dropped one life I loved. Cole flinched, a crack across his mask. The girl's small stuffed rabbit fell from his boot where it had rolled, blackened at the ear. Maya pivoted, burst past his shoulder, and sprinted toward Marin. The nurse was waving frantically near the cruiser, door open like a shield. Maya shoved the child into her arms, her own voice steadier than her heart. Get them out. Back alley. Don't wait. Marin nodded, clutching the girl like she'd known her forever. The mother followed, tears streaking soot across her cheeks, whispering thank you. Maya barely heard. The moment the family was clear, Maya turned. The fire had taken hold now. Flames leapt along the row of bikes, tanks pinging and buckling like war drums. Rook was screaming orders, his face lit by orange fury. His men looked less like predators now and more like rats scrambling from a sinking ship. And Cole? Cole hadn't moved from the alley. He watched her, the badge still in his hand, but it looked flimsy now, pathetic against the truth in her eyes. You think you're righteous, he called over the roar. But you've only made more enemies. I could have protected her. You. Maya stepped forward, fists loose at her sides. You don't protect. You preserve yourself. That's not the same thing. Another shot rang from the tower, closer this time. The sheriff finally spotted the sniper, barking into his radio for units to the square. Deputies spilled from cruisers, weapons drawn, using hoods and doors as cover. Rook grabbed one of his men and shoved him toward Maya like a pawn. Take her down. The man charged. Maya slipped aside, used his momentum to throw him across the pavement, and let him crash against a fire hydrant. Another tried, and she folded his wrist until he squealed and dropped. She didn't relish it. She didn't celebrate it. She just did the work. Cole swore under his breath, then drew a pistol, not at her, but at the tower. He fired twice, covering the deputies, and the sniper ducked back inside. Smoke smudged the sky now, black and rising. Still think I don't protect? He shouted, eyes wild. You're too late to prove it, Maya answered. The sheriff moved in, deputies flanking, voices booming commands. On the ground. Drop your weapons. Rook sneered, blood running down his chin. This isn't over, he spat, backing toward the burning bikes. You don't know who we are. We'll rebuild. We'll find you. Maya closed the gap in 3 steps, her hands snapping to his collar. She yanked him forward, forcing his eyes level with hers. You already found me, she said calm low, and you lost. You'll keep losing because fear isn't strength. Fear is weakness dressed in leather. She shoved him into the deputy's hands. They pinned him hard against the cruiser. The circle broke. The gang scattered, some cuffed, some fleeing into the smoke only to be tackled by arriving county officers. The fire brigade rolled in, hoses hissing as water swallowed flame. Cole lowered his pistol, shoulders sagging. He looked at Maya, expression unreadable. We could have worked together. We're both survivors. Maya shook her head. Survival's not the goal. Living with honor is. You never learn the difference. For the first time, Cole's bravado cracked. his jaw clenched, his eyes glassed, and he turned away as deputies moved in. The sniper was dragged down from the clock tower minutes later, another hired hand, another coward who thought chaos paid better than peace. The streets swarmed with sirens and uniforms, the acrid sting of fire foam heavy in the air. Through it all, Maya stood steady, soot on her flannel, hair frayed, but her breathing calm. She scanned the crowd, found Marin, found the little girl clutching her stuffed rabbit, ears singed but intact. The mother mouthed, "Thank you again." Maya just nodded. The sheriff approached. "Torres, right?" She inclined her head. "You saved half the street from burning down. You want me to put your name in the report as a hero?" Maya's eyes drifted across the ruined bikes, the handcuffed men, the broken glass. "Heroes are the ones who stayed to protect the kid without knowing if I'd make it. Heroes are the ones who chose courage instead of silence. Write their names." The sheriff studied her, then nodded slowly. "Fair enough." Marin approached, the little girl safe at her side. She looked at Maya, eyes shimmering. "Lena was right about you. You still count the stars, don't you?" Maya looked up. The smoke thinned enough to show a sky scratched faintly with daylight stars. She exhaled. "Yeah, I still do." Marin touched her shoulder. "Then keep doing it. The world needs someone who remembers how." Maya allowed herself the smallest smile. She reached for her jacket on the diner's steps, slipped it over her shoulders, and started walking. She didn't need applause. She didn't need a title. She had her boundaries, her breath, her promise kept. Behind her, sirens dimmed, cuffs clicked, hoses hissed. Ahead, the road stretched quiet, waiting. Justice wasn't about breaking bones or winning fights. It was about drawing lines no one had the right to cross, and standing on them when it mattered most. That night, a small-town diner learned what boundaries looked like when lived with courage. Don't forget to subscribe. And tell us below, in your own life, what's the moment you realized strength wasn't about fists, but about dignity? Your voice matters here. Let's talk about it.